Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing, but
That's always good.
I'm trying
There's
to go
always a
live.
Murphy in the room.
Your
But
video is scheduled to start now.
hello, everyone. We're trying to
You're
get
unable to broadcast unless what?
live on Instagram and on
Unless you
YouTube and
update.
Facebook.
Oh, I need to update to the latest Instagram.
Oh, you didn't. Okay, so it's not upgraded. So that's a funny thing. We're going to see if we manage to
Well,
do
I'm
this.
just
But
gonna
let's
first say hello to everybody
exactly.
on all the other platforms. This is what this is about, right? It's a very informal get together where people see our successes and failures. I'm trying to
Not
go
fit.
live right now on Instagram, and I'm having a difficult time.
Yes, so
But
you can try to figure this out. Whilst
Mhm.
in his background is his dog playing with something. That's very funny.
Because last
Yes,
week I was able to go live, right?
yes, it was different. You set it up in a different way. That's no
Last
fun.
week
I
it was
mean,
just.
we're learning. It's learning.
Mhm.
So we're trying to juggle the things with multiple hands and heads that we don't have. We only have
So,
two.
welcome
So
everybody to Raising
yeah.
Multilinguals Live, our weekly get together, our little live chat session. And I see that some folks are already have been waiting for us. So thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you for tuning in. Now we are
Yes,
not
thank you.
live on Instagram quite yet. I'll try to figure that out as we
As
go.
we go through, yes. And I'm trying to figure it
But
out.
everybody else is watching us right now. Hello,
And
hello.
we have the dog telling us that we
And
have to
here's Honey.
include.
Say
Hi,
hello,
honey.
honey.
Hi, honey. I don't know. She doesn't hear
So
me.
we have folks watching us right now on Facebook on two different places on Facebook. So on Facebook page and our Facebook group, our new group that we've freshly minted from a few weeks ago, and also on YouTube. So welcome, welcome! Shout out to everybody! Thank you for
Yes.
coming in.
Welcome,
So
willkommen, benvenuti, bienvenue, and all the rest.
that's right. So my name
Great.
is Tetsu Young, and I run my own little channel called Ask Tetsu, where I talk about raising my own 5 kids, 4 kids, 4 kids. Well, the
What?
fifth one, the fifth one's right here.
Okay.
In
Okay.
5 languages. She also listens to 5 languages. Anyways, so
Yes.
so Ute, why don't you tell
Yes.
us a little bit about yourself? And meanwhile, let me see if I could get this thing
Yes,
going.
I'm going to talk
Start
a
it up.
little bit. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ute Haribold, and I'm the owner of Ute's International Lounge, where I help multilingual families maintain their languages and embrace new ones. I have 3 children, and if I include my dog as well, that would be 4
There you go.
that are growing up with multiple languages. And actually, yes, Tetsu, also our dogs, they understand different languages too, right? Or they ignore maybe willingly
You
some of
know,
them if they don't want to do some things.
people think
It's,
dogs understand. There must be studies on this.
I don't
I
know.
I
We
think
have
it's
to
all
look
the
into
jest.
it.
When I teach my dog some tricks, I always try to exaggerate the movements, the
Yes,
gestures,
yeah,
because I'm pretty
like,
sure she understands the gestures much more than
yes,
what's being said.
it's,
And the
yeah,
intonation also, like I
the
try to really
intonation.
exaggerate.
Yes, we once counted the words that our dog is able to understand just by saying the words. And we came up to 20 words, something like that, but with different intonations, of course, and then also in different languages. But anyways, but we're talking about children usually, right? Not about dogs.
It's just there are similarities. I
There
mean,
are similarities, yes, absolutely. So, hello everyone who is following us now on Facebook and on YouTube. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat or let us know how your week is going, how it's going with your languages, if you have encountered any difficulties, struggles, or nice experiences and success stories. Please let us know, and we are very happy to share them on screen if possible. Whilst Tetsu is trying to figure out how it works on Instagram, but maybe today we have to just
we may have to just
focus
skip
on
the
what we have.
Instagram
Exactly.
for today,
Yes, I think.
but it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. We've got folks watching us
because
right now on the other
yes,
on
that's
the
fine.
other platform. So
Yeah.
why don't we get right into it? Let's bring up our first question already from Ismex. Steven Ismex. I don't know, does that mean is from Mexico, or is that really your last
Or
name?
Mexican? I don't know.
I don't know. If you're watching right now, hello. Thanks for tuning in. So it's a question directed at me. Okay. So Tetsu, can you go into detail about your Chinese implementation with your kids after you have refined it and the enthusiasm energy has run out? Okay, that's a great question to start. It'll be, if you don't mind, Ute, I'm going to take a few minutes for this one. I'm happy to receive a question about how we raise our kids in the 5 languages, and specifically, we're talking about Mandarin. Mandarin's one of the 5 languages that we teach our kids. So it's English, French, Japanese, Mandarin, and Spanish. Those are the 5 languages that we do. And
in your family?
In our family, yes. And Mandarin, I must admit, is the one that really takes, I think, the most effort to keep up. And we're having the least return, I guess, in terms of levels that they are achieving. For the effort that we're putting in, I find that we're not getting quite as much return because it's a tough language. It just simply is. And that's also fine. We get these questions a lot, right? Now, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 languages, do you need to get them all to the same level? In our family, we don't expect them to have all at the same level. We just do what we can and enjoy the results. So, but the facts are the facts. Of the 5 languages, it is the one that's not had the most, I guess, the results. Still, I still speak exclusively Mandarin with the kids. And my father, who's Taiwanese, he's also speaking Mandarin with the kids. And that's, I would say, half to 50 to 70% of the strategy is basically that, myself speaking to them in Mandarin. And up to just before the pandemic, we were going to Taiwan every summer for 2 months. So that was also a big boost every year for at least 2, sometimes 3 months, where they would go to a local school and speak Mandarin 24/7. But unfortunately, since the pandemic began, we've not been able to go, and we are right in the middle of planning it out for this summer. And if all goes well, we're going to be there for 2 months this summer, also from July and August. So that's another big portion. So when I say I don't get as much result for Mandarin, this could be one of the reasons where we've missed out on 3 consecutive years. That's the 4th year. We will not have gone for 4 years when we go this summer. And that's big, you know. My 3rd child was 2 or 3, 2 when the last time he went. So and I didn't even have my last child yet.
Yes, exactly. She was born in the pandemic.
Okay, so these 2 are, so just myself and my father speaking to them in Mandarin, and then us going to Taiwan is the bulk of the strategy. And we also have italki, which is basically a platform where teachers or tutors and students, it's like a matching platform. And my kids have a Mandarin teacher. They love this guy. Okay, and they wake up like at 5:30 before 6 o'clock by themselves to take an hour lesson with Carl before going to school. So they take the bus at 7:30. So they have lessons from 6 to 7. So that's 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't have to wake them up. They wake up by themselves, and they do an hour lesson with Carl. And how does he do it? I don't know. He's just a good teacher who's able to really bring himself down to the level of the kids. And he teaches about, let's say, 15, 20 minutes of, the boring stuff, the grammar and the reading and that kind of stuff. But then comes the fun part where they play games. It's mostly think it's Minecraft, Roblox, social games. And through that, obviously they're doing that in Mandarin the whole time. So my 3 older kids do this every day. Like they have to fight. Oh, it's my turn. So of that hour, it's like 30 minutes for one kid, 30 minutes for the other, and then the next day it's another 2. And they have to like fight each other for that slot.
Who's going to have
day.
that?
Yeah. It's really a great investment in that sense. They speak Mandarin, for a full hour. And when they're playing the game, they sort of like just all go in and they just play. But when they're doing that grammar stuff, they all have different levels. So it's like one person would do it for about 15, 20 minutes. And then they have the fun. So that's pretty much it. My wife wants me to read to the kids in Mandarin and the books, and I do it every once in a while, but it's like every full moon. So I really can't sit down, find the time to sit down and really read them the books that my wife would like. So
yes, or your father maybe, or
grandpa's not so patient with the kids.
Okay, yeah, but this is a great insight that you're giving here, Tetsu, because I mean, many of us are raising our children, with our languages, with almost no one around who speaks the language. We have the same situation, not with Chinese, but with Swiss German, where there's no one around who speaks Swiss German, or the few that we know don't have children of the same age group, or we just never get to meet. So it's really only us, and it's really basic what they know. And every time we go to Switzerland and go to different regions in the Swiss German speaking part, we see that they understand everything, and then they can also make themselves understood, which is actually what we want, right? So but with reading and writing with Chinese, how are you doing that? You said that they are learning the grammar. Are they learning to?
So they are reading to a certain degree. Obviously not to age standardized levels. They're at age standardized levels for Japanese, but for Mandarin, it's tough. Mandarin characters, it's much more complicated. So sorry, I'm trying to figure out my phone here.
I'm trying to arrange my stuff as well, as Instagram is not going, so set up everything, but it's okay. But if there's any other question, I can also answer some. But about the Chinese, I think it's quite something. If you find something, a tool, activities, something that the children are really interested in, or to re-interest them into the language.
We're live on Instagram. I just thought of something that was a very simple fix. Change the phone.
Okay.
I just changed the phone, and now we are live also on Instagram, in addition to YouTube and Facebook page and Facebook group. And special shout out to our members in the Facebook group. So it's a little community that we're trying to build where we could get intimate, like this, to be able to interact much more. And I think that the Facebook group is a place for that. So if you're not in the Facebook group, I do invite you all to come on in. And let's see.
I ask you to join. You just have to let me in, please.
I'm just trying to see how I can do that. And you are in, right? Are you not?
Not yet, but maybe it takes a moment. Just a moment. It's just turning.
It's turning? Okay.
Yes, I'm in.
I see you in.
There I am.
Special shout out to everybody on
Hello,
Instagram.
everyone.
Thank you.
It's very nice seeing you and having you on Instagram.
Hang on. Why am I?
You have an echo somewhere.
Yes, because.
So we were talking about how to transmit or keep children motivated. speaking a language or learning a language like Chinese for Tetsu's children. And he was sharing that he and his dad are transmitting Chinese to his 4 children, and his 3 eldest children are learning also with Italki, right?
Italki, yes.
Italki. I always say Italki from another language. So
that works. That works. Sorry about that. So how do you do Chinese? I know you're doing Chinese and Korean, or your son is learning Chinese.
My son was learning Chinese. Yes, he did with a friend when he started when he was 16, I think. But now then he stopped, and now he's learning a little bit of Japanese. So he's dabbing into them and trying to understand a few things, just how it works. And he was very into everything that had to do also with history of China and history of Japan, etc. So it came from that point of view, I think. And then having friends who speak this language, obviously it helps. And this is something that I wanted to ask you, Tetsu, because you said that you are the main ones giving the input or fostering Chinese with your children.
Yes.
Aren't there any other Chinese children? I know that your brother doesn't.
No, he doesn't speak any.
He doesn't speak any. Okay.
No.
Or other children at school, there are no Chinese speakers. Okay.
There are, but I must say they're not so close. Like they're actually in the same grade, but they don't play together. And I kind of understand, because we're in a very homogenous community here. It's like 90%, 95% Caucasian. So we sort of stand out as Asians. And I don't know, I think kids sort of don't want that added attention. Although I must admit, my kids don't mind that quite as much. I feel that perhaps it's a Chinese family. As the parents, we know each other, but we're not super close. They've come over for dinner maybe a few times. We've gone over for a few times, but it's like once a year or once every 2 years kind of thing. So it's not like every weekend we get together and have fun.
Yes, and then in the end, yes, the context remains the same more or less, so that it's not so varied as for other languages, right, or other cultures that you have. Yeah, which is very interesting to see, and also interesting to see what comes out of it in 10 years or 15 years, what they are going to make out of this.
Yeah, that's right. When people, like I mentioned earlier, when people sort of have super high expectations for all the languages, they want every language to be native level or whatever. It's a good goal to shoot for, but it's not a realistic expectation to have. But I do think that if you are able to get them to at least, I say 10, 12 years old level in terms of understanding, because they're able to comprehend everything that's being said to them at the 10 to 12-year-old level, it's a huge base that you will have created for them. And who knows, right? If my kid decides that one day they want to work in China or Taiwan or any other country where Mandarin is a main language, they will be able to. They know enough to survive well, and they know enough to be able to learn how to type things out. And so
how to function in that society, right? And then also, I mean, we have also for German or Swiss German, also the other languages that we have, the formal and not formal register that they need to learn, right? Where maybe if they are exposed to English, it's more difficult to learn.
Yeah. the only thing we can give them is really that foundation, and they may never use it, right? So
I wouldn't say they will never. If it's not them, maybe their friends or their children one day or something. But it is in fact a real issue or concern for many, as if you grow up abroad, the third generation usually tends to forget or to lose the heritage language or one of the heritage languages of the parents. So that is a real thing, I think. So in order to avoid this or to make sure that it's not going to be lost, we need to do something, even if it's just a little bit.
Even if it's just a little bit, we give them what we can, and that's really all we can do. Your best. You cannot expect anything more than your best.
No, exactly. Right? But maybe someone has a question. Does anyone have a question about this, about maintaining the language?
Maintaining languages, maintaining multiple languages is often a question we get. Or if it's just about learning languages, like Ute and myself, we've grown up as multilinguals. We've also learned languages along the way. So if you guys have questions about polyglottism, that's also something that we deal with. But
yeah, I've heard that someone told me, no, you're not polyglot because you learn many of the lanlanguages before you were 13, and then it depends on how you define polyglot or how you define.
I didn't even know this difference.
Me neither. Me neither.
Before attending Richard Simcott's polyglot conference.
Yes.
That was the first time I realized, wow, people actually differentiate between the word polyglot and multilingual. So according to these people who learn languages, that's what a polyglot is. You learn languages out of interest, out of your own motivation. That's a polyglot. Whereas a multilingual is somebody who grew up learning different languages without necessarily.
But then we are both, because we grew up and then we are learning more. So we are a hybrid. We are
we're a multiglot.
Whatever, a multiplot.
Multiglot.
A multiglot. A glottimalt, I don't know, but anyways,
glottilingual.
As you can see, I don't really like labels.
That's right.
I really don't like them. But okay, if people need them in order to know in which case to put you, then okay, if it's fine for you, then. So there is a comment by someone on Facebook.
Yes, by the way, here it says Facebook user. I think it's because when you're in the Facebook group, you have to like click something to say you're okay with having your face up.
Yeah, but it could be that because, if I'm not mistaken, the group is private, right?
No, is it? I don't think so.
Isn't it?
Is it? Oh, possibly. If I make the group public, then that would work.
Yes.
That way. Okay.
I think if it's a public group, then it's so, and if it's not, then there is a little filter, which is fine because people might not want to be recognizable. So let's see. So a Facebook user, whoever you are, thank you for the comment. Now that you mentioned some people want a language at a native level, I'd like to know your opinion on the matter. Do you consider native like something positive in terms of identity? There is a very nice article by Thomas Bach, Lourdes Ortega, and Jean-Marc Devalle about the native speakerism, or the term of native speaker has mud on its face. I really recommend you to read it. It's a fun read, and it's not too well. It's both. It's very scientific, but then actually points out what is not so okay about this term. But shall I answer this question? Do you consider native like something positive in terms of identity? Identity is a very broad topic, and depending on how you define the identity of a person, there are so many different facets of identity that determine who you are, however you want to define yourself. And being native, like whatever this means. First of all, what does this mean? Does this mean that you speak the language from the beginning, and that you still speak the language at a very high level of proficiency throughout your life? Because this can change. There's language shift, there's language attrition, etc. But And in different phases, maybe another language, another culture, another aspect of yourself, other facets become much more important. So define identity, define native-like. I think I try to do everything in a positive way. And what I like to say is, instead of making people choose between one language and the other, or maybe putting two in the forefront and the other ones in the background, what I like to say is just say, I'm not only, but also, and then you add. So you say and. So I'm not only Chinese, I'm also Japanese and French and Spanish and Italian and whatever you want to say. So I think it's more a multilingual kind of mindset, multilingual, multicultural, more inclusive or embracing kind of mindset that I would rather focus on than on native-like, because it can change a lot.
Native is such a elusive term, because depending on the dialect that you speak, you can be native in this dialect, but you sound completely different in another in another dialect, and there's also a matter of people who have different levels of grasp, mastery of a language. Even though they're native, they make tons of mistakes when they speak. That's also something that, if you want something that's measurable.
But then it's really, I would say it's impossible to measure. If you focus on the use of maybe certain words, verbs, sentences, sentence structures, then you can measure it. But you cannot really measure it.
Is are you able to use this language and really communicate to such a level that people don't feel that you're an outsider? You can become an insider with that language. And that, I think, is actually very hard to achieve. Even if you speak the language very, very well, doesn't mean you can really penetrate the cultural barriers and really come into that circle, that insider circle. And also depends on the culture too. There are cultures that are much more open and accepting, whereas others that are more let's say reserved or sort of so. And I just realized this Facebook user is my buddy Luis Ernesto from Mexico. Luis Ernesto Navarrete. So hello, Luis. Luis is also a linguist. He's actually a very good linguist, and he's working as a interpreter, forensic interpreter. He wants to become the first forensic interpreter of Mexico. So
great. Yes.
He's a Mexican celebrity in my eyes.
I wanted to come back to what you just said about the way you use the language makes you an insider or outsider. I mean, you said it depends on the setting, it depends on the context, sometimes on the language, or how the others in the group perceive accents, perceive your use of registers or not, and many other things, even how you appear, how you dress, how you gesticulate or how you don't gesticulate, and then the cultural references. If you don't laugh at the moment where everyone else in the group laughs, you're out. Even if your accent is great, and if the rest matches, but there can always be some mismatch in the middle of all that makes another sense. But why didn't you laugh now? I didn't get it. I laugh after, at the second part, not at the first, like these things. So there are so many, we cannot make it fit perfectly, even with our friends, right? Sometimes we don't like their jokes and we don't laugh. So are we outsiders then? No, we're just, for that little aspect, we are not.
That's right.
Just on the same page all the time. Yeah, great.
So we are having a few comments and questions coming in one after another. So why don't we put them up? We're back to Stephen. Stephen Ismex. So this is a continuation of the previous comment, right? Previously, he was asking me how I taught my kids to speak Chinese, I haven't. Let's go back to that comment first. I didn't answer the second part. After you have refined it and the enthusiasm energy has run out. I didn't address this point, but actually maybe I did a little bit by talking about italki, where we went through a few teachers and we found that one teacher, I hope he never retires or he never quits italki. But this guy is so, he's really good at keeping the attention of the kids. So that's how, we have to work with the teachers, tell him what the kids like, their dislikes, and make sure that he's able to come up with material contents that the kids will, that you can keep their enthusiasm. So far, knock on wood, that's what's been working. It's been working so well that the kids wake up by themselves every morning, do an hour of italki Chinese lessons before going to school. So that's been working wonders for now. And then, so second question that Stephen had was, you said your brother didn't speak Chinese. Yes, that's right. My brother doesn't speak Chinese. Situational personality or trauma? Yes, that's situational. Situational. Because if we go into a little bit of my private life, it's that my brother, he's my biological brother, but he's actually adopted by my uncle, who's my mom, who's Japanese. So my uncle is Japanese. So he moved from Taiwan to Japan when he was 8 months old. So he only spoke Japanese, growing up in Japan with nobody to speak Mandarin with. So that's why he doesn't speak any Mandarin at all. Although he lives right next door, we all came to Canada. When I came to Canada to study, my brother also, my uncle decided it's a good environment, and that my brother also was sent over.
Yes, and that makes me think of some families I work with where the older children were exposed to a certain amount of languages, and the younger ones not, to another kind of languages, and then they actually don't have the same experience, the same multilingual journey altogether, because the first one had Spanish and French, and the next one had English and German or Dutch, and then it becomes quite something very unique.
That's such a nice topic. I'd like to maybe throw this out there and see if we can get more comments about this, because I'm feeling quite, how would I say, I'm feeling a bit guilty about not being able to give my youngest or the younger two as much attention and as much infrastructure, I guess, for them to learn these languages as much as my first and to a certain degree my second child. Our attention, our time is spread over 4 kids rather than 2 kids or 1 kid at the beginning, and it's tough. This is not just languages, right? It's also for sports, activities and whatnot. My youngest, I just can't find that time dedicated just for her to learn to skate or to go to the ski or snowboard. Whereas my oldest, it was every day I was out there with him, spending hours trying to get him to do all sorts of activities and spending so much, father-son time.
Yes, this is something that I must say, there is not one solution that fits all, and every family has their own way. It seems like what we are always saying, but actually giving this one-on-one time to every single child, if you have more than one, becomes a huge challenge, because maybe when you are ready, the child is tired, or they want to do something else, and then you try to be fair to everyone, and at the end of the week you say, well, actually I've spent more time with this one and that one, but that other one, actually since 2 weeks we didn't have a longer time sitting down or doing an activity or going somewhere together. And I try to be fair to all my 3 children. Then with twins also I had this kind of thing. Okay, on Tuesday it's one, and on Thursday the other one, in order to get to know them, really to get to know how they are. Because with twins you have another kind of setting, but also with, I think, siblings that are very close with age, that you see them always together, they play together, and you don't really get to know the person as an individual. So I wanted to know how they are individually different. And that was a whole day only with one and a whole day only with the other. And after a while, I saw how they were reacting with everything, not only language, but interests. They completed each other. Yeah, there is a normal groups dynamic. When you have all children together, there is a groups dynamic. If you have one, this groups dynamic is different or is not there anymore. And you get to know your child to the core. I always said, I know you to the core now. And that was very, very interesting for me to see. But of course, you only have that amount of days and hours per day.
Yeah.
And you should also do that other things. But it's
something I did, do, and I still do to a certain degree, is to have the older kids sort of take my place to support the younger kids. So I would ask, when they go to Japan and I'm not there, I would ask Ronnie to speak to the kids, the younger ones in Mandarin, help them out with stuff. Or if it's activities, like I always tell Ronnie to prepare Akila, the younger boy, with wearing his equipment to play hockey and whatnot. So that's sort of how I sort of clone myself, I guess.
Yes, but I would like to quote your friend when he says, Tetsu, I think it comes back to what you said at the beginning. We can only do our best. So don't feel guilty. Absolutely. Don't feel guilty at all. You do your best with, I don't know, sleep deprived and everything. You're doing your best. And I think I always said, when you realize that maybe you should do more, you already are doing enough. Yep, because only those who are not doing enough.
We gotta work smarter, though. We gotta work smarter. When there are people like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, these guys building amazing things that just seems unreal, and it's really because they're able to delegate. They're able to get other people to align with their vision and do something that they want to do that they cannot do by themselves. So it's something I cannot do by myself. But I got to be able to find a way to, delegate and have the whole family go in one direction, same vector, I guess.
Yes, but I never wanted to delegate being a mom.
No, you can't do that. No, of course not. Of course not.
No, there's only one.
You can delegate the reading a book to, a younger child for an hour.
Yes, if there is something where you say this is actually something that I don't enjoy doing, then yes, delegate to the older child. It can read to the younger one.
And it helps the older kid too, right? The older child would also benefit from that. So.
Yes, and it would come back to the motivation kind of part that we were saying before, right? If the older child all of a sudden says, "Oh well, I'm not motivated," or they won't say, "I'm not motivated." They would say, "I just don't want to. I don't see why," etc. But then, if they get the task, or let's say it's something that you can teach your younger sibling or the child across the street who wants to learn the language or the skill or whatever it is, then it empowers them and gives them the confidence and also the pride to be able to do something and to share that, no matter what level it is. But you can teach. I remember we had a neighbor in Italy, and he was, I was always saying, why doesn't he speak German? But at some point, he also wanted to learn German from my sister. They were the same age. My sister's 4 years older than I. And they were sitting in the garden, and she would say, "Vis una pietra, das ist ein Stein," and telling him all these things. And he was really listening. So I remember that she was like very, very proud of being able to tell him how these things were called in German, whereas he was also trying to teach her all kind of things in Italian. I mean, they were playing together all the time. We were all playing together. So I think that's a very powerful way.
It is
to motivate the children.
Especially the kids, they're always like, I can do this, I can do that. They want to show you that they can do certain things, so you can extract that motivation, that power, to put it to good use.
Yes, and also when they're older, when they're teenagers, they can figure out so many things and also realize what they are actually capable of.
Oh yes.
When they
surprise me continuously.
When and they visit maybe a place where the language, one of the languages is used, and they can communicate with people, but their friends maybe not, because they learned it at school to a certain level, but they don't. They are not that fluent yet, or they
My
don't.
kids really like they surprise me. I think we really underestimate them a lot. We have this tendency to underestimate children, thinking that they're not able to understand like adult
Who
things,
they are.
or
Oh, they are.
but they're all there. Like recently, you know about our biweekly one-on-one sessions. I've talked about this on my YouTube channel also, where every 2-3 weeks I would sit down with each child that's above 8. So the first two, okay. I start this at 8 years old. Every 2-3 weeks we sit down and we talk. It's just the time that we set aside, block off, and we just talk about school, about life in general, about anything and everything, kind of like what we do here, but more like heart to heart. And recently, we with my oldest, we started to talk about uh, work, career, and things like that. And I've also talked about a business that I'm getting him to start, and that is I bought this machine to sharpen skates. So it's portable. So we'll bring this to his games, and we can get him to have sharpen skates for other teammates and whatnot. And and through talking about business and talking about skills, through talking about money, all these things, I finally realized, wow, he knows how society works, how money flows to a certain degree. One thing that surprised me was I was talking about if the cost of creating a good is this much and you sell it for this much, what's in between is profit. If you have this much profit, why doesn't everybody do this? If it's so simple, just buy a machine, make something, and anybody can do it. And he goes, yeah, but if it's so simple, many people will come into this market and make the same thing. Market forces. I never explained this to him, but he already knew about like market forces and things that we learn in business school. He already
Yes.
knew it intuitively, and that really
Yeah,
surprised me.
that's
10 years
amazing. Yes,
old.
by observing, right? Observing how things are, and maybe questioning without necessarily questioning, but just
Yes,
trying
like
to
I
figure
said.
out how it works.
Because
Yes.
we sit down and we talk about career. What do you want to
Oh.
look for, in a job later in life that you're going to spend the majority of your waking hours doing? You got to find something that you're going to be passionate about, you love, and that's worthwhile, that you're contributing to society, that you have the skills for, that also there's a societal need for, and all that. And then there's through talking about that.
But there's so many choices, options nowadays. I found it overwhelming when we were trying to figure out what direction my children should take, and in the end, yes, they all chose something that was very similar actually among them, but then still different. But I found it, as my career path was not one I decided with 20 what to do, and I'm still doing it.
Same thing.
Somehow I'm doing it, but
Exactly.
it changed over time. The same for my husband. So I try to let them actually know whatever you decide when you're 18 is not going to determine who you are at 50. So keep on learning, keep on. This is the advantage as well, right? Being multilingual, being open-minded, and saying, okay, even if I know this, in 5 years, I might be interested in something completely different, because we change, because we move to another place, because we leave the company or academia or whatever in order
or the
to
industry altogether.
Absolutely. So this is something which I find the most satisfying as well, because
it is. It's that journey. It's totally motivating. And like you say, I make it a point to let them know it's not that you have to lock yourself in. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a direction.
Yeah.
Like you have to think about what you want to do so that you don't just kind of wander around aimlessly. Yes, there's good to that, but I like
sometimes
you
you
need a
have to.
direction, at least a general direction, so you can move in there, and then somewhere along the way it can, and it most likely will change, and that is okay. I think we grow up feeling that this change is not okay. I felt that definitely growing up, but I don't
Yeah,
want my kids to feel that. But I do want them
but
to have a direction.
yes, but I know we are now shifting towards parenting kind of discourse about parenting, which is a little bit a red flag for many, because I mean everyone decides for themselves. But I want to add one little thing that I learned with my children is actually, please let them also hit their head against the wall. So really that they don't know where else to go, because it's something that I'm very happy that they experienced it while they were still at home. Because if you experience this sense of despair and of being lost in everything, when you are on the other side of the world, maybe just move there and all by yourself, that's something different. It's much more difficult. But this is going really very far. You can tell that my children are older. But yes, we were talking about parenting, and when you were doing these examples, I think you refer to a video that you have on your channel, right, where you sit down with your children.
Yes,
This
yes,
is the one
our
that you went.
bi-weekly
Yes.
one-on-one sessions. Yes.
Yes. And I would like also to point out something else, because we are doing these live chats for Raising Multilinguals Live. And we are just lately, well, not so lately, actually, it's already 2 months, I think, that we were sharing shorts, that's to say, little pearls from our interviews that we did. Because Tetsu and we are doing all this in our spare time, like we said the last time, but we are also rewatching all the interviews and trying to pick out the little pearls for you all who are following us and present them to you. I mean, there is a lot to watch, and we will feed YouTube and help me there, Tetsu,
Yes, these
Facebook
little
and Instagram at some point. So
these interviews are 1 hour long, so
yes, it's a long time.
it's hard to just sit down and say, "Oh, I'm just going to watch this random video for an hour." But we give you a little preview, just like all the movies have these trailers, and that's what we've picked out for each of our interviews. And there's a playlist on our YouTube channel, and also if you go to our Facebook page, you can find these videos that pop up every few days, and that will give you a good idea of what that session is about. And if you like what you see, then you can sign up and watch that whole video. And you can definitely ask us questions in the comments. We'll all pick those up and try to answer what we can. And speaking of comments and questions, let's maybe continue what we have here. Where are we? I see this one. Tamara had a friend called Tamara, but people tell me it's mostly Tamara. I don't know. But I can't read her last name. Is this
Dogajic? I don't know.
But it's okay.
Yes.
So she says, I'm interested on hints on how to bring the language knowledge from passive to active in kids that are preschool age. So we're talking, 3, 4, 5 years old. So passive to active.
Yeah, it would be rather receptive to active, right?
Yeah.
Passive, we often say passive because the child is not speaking yet, but maybe they are communicating with gestures or with responding to what is said to them, in order for us to understand also that they are actually already understanding more than it might seem. But how to bring this from receptive to active, that's a good question. It depends on many factors. Why is the child not using the language actively? Maybe it is the setting or the person. Maybe it's an adult that they are a little bit that they don't know yet.
Yeah. I think first we need to divide this into two categories, right? One is whether they are like actively being passive or actively being, receptive. That is, they don't want to speak. That, I guess that's the point. they refuse to speak, or it's the way you're communicating with your child that doesn't require so much feedback or so much response, right? So you're just telling him or her to just do this or do that, and they just do this or do that without necessarily having to respond. And that in and of itself, I don't know, if at that age, is it such a big deal? My daughter took a while before really speaking. So, but if it's the first situation where you know that the child sort of refuses to speak, that's a different ball game. Yeah, we're working on a video actually that's about receptive bilinguals. We have an interview with Dr. Janice Nakamura, so perhaps you could watch that for the details. But the gist of it is, I guess it's how do you allow your child to want to speak the language? Your ways to make them be able to want to speak it, have pride in the language, what else would you add to that?
I would add it also depends pretty much on what kind of communicator the child is. If the child is someone who observes before speaking, maybe they are accumulating all the knowledge before they will become verbal, but they need a context or an environment that is language friendly in terms of that they feel safe and also encouraged to speak. Yes, so that the need is there.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Tamara actually added some details to her situation here. So she's saying, my son chooses to speak only English, but refuses to speak the native tongue.
Native and the language of environment.
Which is German. Okay. Even though he has a full understanding of those two. So I guess we're assuming the child lives in a German-speaking country.
Yeah, right? Environment German. Yes.
And she has, I would say, sort of, I guess if you had to choose, for the child to speak English is a good thing in this situation, since the community language is German. So chances are the child will, over time, form social bonds with the community and be incited to actually speak German much more as he grows up.
Yes,
so,
but I think one of the things, as far as I understand now of what you're sharing, Tamara, maybe your son understands or has seen that you also understand and speak English. So he might be choosing a very economic way to only focus on English because he said, but anyway, everyone is understanding English and speaking English. So that might be one thing. I mean, children are smart. They're very smart. So there's always a reason behind it. And I think one can, I have like in my mind now 10 questions to ask you to figure out what might be going on, but we don't have that time at the moment.
Well, you want a shocking fact? It is now 1:55 p.m.
No way. Okay, it's almost 7 here.
I have no idea that the time just flew right by. We didn't mention this today, but this weekly thing that we just started last week, we thought, okay, if it's something that just takes 5 minutes, nobody's watching, it'll be 5 minutes. but we said we need a hard stop at 1 hour. We cannot just do hours and hours every week. No, suddenly we're at like 4 minutes from the top of the hour already.
Yes. So.
It's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. We're glad to be able to share our time and our thoughts with you guys.
Yes.
So I'm very happy that this is interactive.
Yes, and thank you, Tamara. Yes, I hope that we gave you hope. Yes, that's what we want to give. But I think there are more things to figure out. Can I just share also this this part of Melis Gejgin? I don't know. I sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Hi, speak Turkish and English. My husband speaks Portuguese and English, so we use the Opal method, but sometimes we speak also English with her. with your daughter then, to make a family conversation. Are we confusing her? Is there any suggestion there? First of all, no, I don't think that you're going to confuse her unless she shows that she's confused, but I would like to know how old she is as well. I imagine that she's very young. The family conversation, I know many families where each parent has a different language and they have a third language among them, like you have in your situation. Then the third language becomes very often the family language, unless they decide that one of the parents' languages becomes the family language. But it's a long way to get there, or there are many things that need to be set right in order to make this happen. So to answer your question, just in a nutshell, no, I don't think that you are confusing her. And usually children are very fast in understanding what their parents are saying in the language that they are not using in one-on-one situations with them. My son was very fast at understanding many things in German first, because we had German as the communication language between me and my husband for a long time. And then later when we chose English, he also understood that very fast. And then we had French, and then he learned French at school, and that was gone as well. So that is something that I don't think it's confusing them. If they want to understand what is going on and what you're planning, then they will do. They will find out. You have something.
I was trying to fix my phone and I ended up rebooting it. So
thank you, Anna. I'm just going through those because I know that the time is almost up. Yep. Thank you, Anna, for joining us.
Hello, Anna. How are you doing?
Yeah, for being up so late. No, Tetsu is less late than we.
That's right. It's actually almost 2 p.m. my time, yes. So it's actually not late at all.
Yes, and Melis was saying that I think our live video on Instagram just ended.
But, yes, sorry about that. It abruptly ended because I rebooted my phone by mistake.
Okay, so and Melis is saying, oh, your child is 2 months only. Okay, so I don't think that you're confusing, but it's always.
We get this a lot, don't we? We get this a lot with the OPPO method. Will my child be confused? Will my child have caused delays in their language development? This kind of stuff we get a lot.
Yes, but it's a worry that you have, because indeed. Especially when the children are not verbal yet, if they don't express themselves yet, you feel sometimes that they want to say something and then they struggle maybe, or it seems that they struggle, but actually it's, as I come back to what I said before to someone else, it depends on how you communicate with your child. So if you give them enough time, and
I don't know if it's happened to Melissa's child. But somewhere they might just use 2-3 languages in one sentence or one paragraph. Like I have a funny video of my son saying, in 5 words he used 3 languages when he was 2. So that's up on my YouTube channel.
Yes, I also just found a video with my son who was at the table. It's 20 years ago, so it's a long time ago. But he was also speaking in the 2 languages and then trying to figure out, depending on who he was looking at, he was addressing Swiss German to my husband and Italian to me, because that were the languages that we were using. But yes, from very early on. But we're talking about the 2 months old. So, but also, I would say, don't keep it as natural as possible, but maintain also these one-on-one moments where you insist on your respective languages, because they need a lot of input and
That's
all
right.
of words.
That's right. They can take much more than you think.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And once they start talking, you are done talking. Not kidding. No. Okay.
Can't stop them there.
I think we have reached the hour.
Covered everything. I do see one from Ernesto that we kind of missed earlier. He says, in case of diglossia, speakers tend to do the code switching for the sake of boasting. Oh, okay, yeah, showing off. I guess it happens a lot in Mexico. But I've seen multilingual kids like yours, Tetsu, is they value languages and don't see one language as better than the other. Indeed. We have
Yeah,
lots to
because
learn from multiculturalism.
yes,
For
because
them, it's just the reality of life. It's not that they feel cool to speak 5 languages or that they're ashamed of the languages per se. It's just something that they do, like they breathe and eat.
yes, I think the maybe we can dedicate once more time to the diglossia situation, where there is one language that is used more, let's say, in formal settings, and another one in informal settings, or like you have the Swiss German in the Swiss German part of Switzerland, you have Swiss German, Schweizerdeutsch, and then you have the standard German that is used in formal settings, etc. But where there is also a certain different feeling about the language and different value that is given to the language, that's more complex. And then we go into details that are connected with the glossic situations. But I think we can leave that maybe for the next time, for next week.
For the next time.
No, not next week, because next week we are going to have someone
That's right. Speaking
as our guest. Yes.
Speaking of, yes, we will be having a session about literacy, or more specifically, multiliteracy.
Yes, and asynchronous multiliteracy.
My goodness.
Yes, it's not synchronized, so you can imagine what it means.
There you go. So we'll be having Dr. Sabina Little. She was with us maybe 2 years ago. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. It was a fantastic session. So definitely today we've had some questions about that. Well, actually, no questions, but I was talking about the different levels that we want to achieve in each language. So literacy is something that people aim for a lot, and so if you're interested at all about getting your kids to be literate in all the languages that they speak, I invite you to come on and have a chat with us and our special guest next week, Dr. Sabina Little. So the time is the same as this one. It's the same for North America, but it's 1 hour ahead because of the time changes that we had here. So it's 1 p.m. here in the Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Saving Time, and then it's 5 p.m. in the UK and 6 p.m. your time. Right?
No, it's 6 p.m. in the UK and 7 p.m. here.
Are you sure? Next week?
Next week is going to be that, yes.
You're changing time already?
No, we don't.
No.
We are usually. It's the other way around.
Okay, it's actually 1 hour later for me.
Exactly, it's 2 o'clock for you.
Let's edit this video right now, virtually. It's 2 p.m. my time. That's right.
Yes.
2 p.m. my time, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. London.
UK, and 7 p.m. in Central European time.
Yes, it will be on the advert. So
it's on the advert. Don't listen to me. All righty. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today on our platforms. We're very happy to have you. And keep a note of all your questions, and we'll be talking again 2 weeks from today in this format. But next week, come talk to Dr. Sabina Little and ask her your questions also. Okay? So we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss.